Enter madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. The curtain rises and the players come out. Webs of light spinning from their mouths. Stop looking, listen for a little while. Attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow radiating in your blood. It's never enough. But no one wants to talk about it. It's safer not to talk about it. I cut my strings, no more bowing to the master. I tried to run, but they only came faster. Now I stand my ground. I ain't backing down. Silver bullets in my pistol in my holster. My will is strengthened and my confidence is bolstered. Don't test my resolve. Don't test my resolve.
Howdy, folks. Welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Sunday, February the 26th, 2023. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Tim and Dustin tonight. We're coming to you live from Carter County, Tennessee, here in the middle of the Iron Mountain. And we want to say thank you for joining us. So go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Go hit the Rumble description or the Rumble link in the description and like us and follow us on there and all that good stuff. Help us build that channel up so we can have a couple of different streaming options. We sure would appreciate you, and it's nice to have you with us. What's up, Sean, in the chat? Everybody gas those geese and jump in there with us and let us know what's on your mind as we get into some of these topics tonight. And I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet, but I think we're going to talk about zombies tonight. What's up, guys?
Hey. And as I was saying before the show started, we've got like a thing that goes well with the show with the geese. It's a MIDI form of doom, but it's done with like goose honks.
And when you say goose honks, the first goose that I come to, because there's many gooses that come to mind.
A lot to gander in that situation.
Yeah, but the goose that comes to my mind is the goose that is in the opening credits of Big Trouble in Little China that goes. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm.
What's up, Joe?
I do.
This theme song slowing down. It's about to cut to the card cutting thing, and truck slowly cruises. Then it cuts to the goose. The goose cuts right to the camera. Does a very distinct honking pattern that is burned into my brain about as distinctly as the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song too.
I gotta look it up.
You don't recognize the goose? Oh, that goose.
I've seen that movie a bunch of times, and I don't remember the goose.
I don't want to honk like a goose right now because it's late, but you just need the opening credits.
Is it nothing? Well, we gotta be careful playing the actual credits.
Hopefully they won't actually keep it in small windows. Surely that movie's old enough.
It matters, man.
John
It matters.
Carpenter's not going to get pissed at us for that one.
Well, that's when you just fast forward,
Yeah, we gotta find the part we need.
PS5 with a PlayStation.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I think we'll be alright if we just show the little clip and don't show the whole intro there.
And I mean, hell, while we're at it, we can look up a.
It might not be it because it's probably the scene after this because that's that whole part where Egg Shin's talking about how it all starts real slow and stuff. But,
Oh, it's the where he's driving in.
yeah.
The Jack Burton introduction scene.
The music that's playing while he's sitting there on. This is old Jack Burton with
Yeah.
the Pork Chop Express. There you go, that one. Why are we doing this, folks? I don't know, but that goose.
You've got this
is
goose. I've
burned
got to see
into
this
my
goose
head.
now. I've got to find this
Let's
goose.
see where he's at here.
Hang on, we'll show you in just a second, folks.
It might be the scene after this one while he's rolling in.
Why do I not know the goose? I've seen this movie a million times.
Cut back a little bit. Just to see. I don't know, man. I think it's further. Yeah, because it's right here in all this. You see right here when they start to carry, packages and stuff in. It's the next one. The goose exists. I don't know why we're finding it right now.
We may not find it.
I'm game.
I'm gonna search Big Trouble in Little China Goose.
I don't think it exists.
Maybe it's just a psychotic breakdown you've had.
Oh no. I'll screen cap it, or screen cap the whole thing. I'll even make a song out of it for you.
Well, it doesn't look like it's gonna be easy to find there.
I'll bring you that
Pretty
goose.
sure I remember it, though. I know what you're talking of.
Oh.
Unless it's a group psychosis.
Oh no, that goose
It
exists.
could be.
I tell you, the goose does exist, and I will bring it to you Wednesday.
All right, good. I can't wait to see the goose.
While you're
I'm sure I know I've seen it if it's in there.
Honk.
That's the best I can give you, but mark my words, that goose exists. What's up, Dalton? What's up, Joe?
Dalton, good to have you. Man, I had another greasy story for you. You asked if I had greasy local stories the other night, and I forgot what it was, man. There was one I meant to tell you about, and
Slid right out of your fingers.
yes, that's right. It was too greasy, in fact.
I saw on the scanner feed thing the other night, it said Carter County area or something like that, and it said 2 trucks in the street playing tug of war with a chain, men on top of truck, slapping truck, yelling at the top of their lungs. I was like, yeah, that's...
Welcome to Carter County, baby. That's just another Saturday night.
That's right.
Yeah, nothing noteworthy there. Yeah, just come on down whenever you're ready, Sean. We got a truck with a chain waiting for you.
I
Everybody,
think some of these people that are moving here are going to be real shocked to find out what kind of strangeness that they're actually dealing with.
what's up, Spill?
Like, you know, a lot of people moving here from New York, for example, and I think they're not Michiganders. We've had Michiganders moving here for a long time, and they assimilated real well. Like, you know, everybody talks and stuff. But the New York people seem real hesitant, like they're shocked that people are nice to them, which I think has to be a symptom of where they're from, that they come from a state where, you know, it's common to yell at people.
I've got a thing here I sent to Tim. This was a 4chan chat here, or a 4chan post. And it's titled, "You Are Not Welcome in Tennessee." This is from an Anon. It says, fuck off, we're full. Stop coming here. You're not welcome here. Your family's not welcome here. Your friends are not welcome here. No, I don't want to hear how you vote red and like conservatism. I don't care if you find it inexpensive to live here. I don't care that you like not having to deal with snow or road salt eating your car. I don't care how you look forward to not paying a state income tax. Fuck you. Every single one of you fucks is a lukewarm conservative or libertarian who will act against the interests of native Tennesseans every chance you get, and you will drive up the housing prices 10% yearly without fail. And every single one of you will bitch about the humidity every chance you get. So I'll say it again, fuck off, we're full. You wouldn't like it here anyway. Wages are low, it's in all flyovers. There's nothing here, and absolutely nothing ever happens here. So keep this in mind when deciding to move to a state to pollute with your fill.
Tractor pulls in the parking lot.
That's right. Well, actually, I don't.
That doesn't represent where we're at, though.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
You do have to worry about the salt, and there's, we're state of Franklin, baby.
Yeah. There you go, the Doom Goose. Hold it up to the microphone there.
I need to take the one from Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
Whoa. How about giving me the
Goose shred. All right. Doing grout in the tile in the kitchen there, Sean. Yeah, that's some detail work right there.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Their regular scheduled programming now. I had to get that out of it.
thanks, Dustin. Thanks for that.
I don't know, just it felt with the goosiness of it, it felt loosey enough to be part of our.
Well, I think the state leaders though, and the county and city leaders have a different attitude than that poster there on 4chan, because they're really trying to push the tourism aspect.
Actually.
And I'm open to having.
Not even because, I mean, to be honest, I'm not excited about some of the changes that it does bring, and but it's like my parents are from Baltimore. They came here because people kept having riots, and they went, "This sucks. We'll go be poor in Tennessee. At least we don't have to watch shit get burnt down." And so it's like, I'm like Bill. If I started complaining about that, I'd be like Bill the Butcher from Gangs of New York. You know what I'm talking about? Us natives, and it's literally because his dad was an immigrant. And he was born there. It's like, just because I was born in Tennessee, my dad wasn't.
Yeah.
My granddad wasn't, so.
Well, my family came in from other areas too, and I think that was like a real common thing for Tennessee is people who were
around here is
either escaping something or wanting to start fresh on their own without the trappings of whatever it was that they came from. That was a common reason for people to come to Tennessee. That's why the first people from Tennessee came here, because they didn't want to live in Virginia. They didn't want to settle in Virginia. They wanted to get as far away from.
I don't really blame them.
Yeah. Well, they wanted to get as far away from the crown powers as possible, so they moved over the mountains. They weren't really supposed to settle here. We're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later, because we're going to talk about a treaty that was signed between John Sevier, you mentioned state of Franklin, and the Indians in this area, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but that's going to be the end part of the show. Let's see, Spill, you're trying to make some chicken fried steak fingers. Dang. You're growing roots here. Well, yeah, that's a Tennessee kind of food right there. Chicken fried steak fingers,
Fried cube steak and gravy.
Yes, indeed. Sean says he's not fond of the humidity, but he hates the grouting. But it's got to get done. That's right. It's got to get done.
I think I'd rather have the humidity than like no water.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think that's like the state situation that I don't think I could live in. Is like. It's like if I was homeless in Tennessee, I could put my mouth open and eventually it would rain enough that I'd get a drink. Imagine living in a state where it didn't rain, though.
Yeah.
That would freak me out.
It does rain in Vegas, but like in somewhere like Vegas where the air's so dry, it's hot, but then as soon as you sweat, it evaporates off your body, so you don't have the humidity, but it's kind of a double-edged sword there because you don't have any way to get rid of that heat. Because the sweat's gone off of you before it can absorb the heat.
What is it? They only get like 18 inches of rain a year.
Yeah.
And we get like
60 some.
No, we get like
rains. It literally rains. If you do the average, it rains a third of the year in Tennessee. So once every 3 days, you're getting some kind of precipitation.
Well, I can attest to that.
Right through this part of the state too. This is actually like I've said before. This is like basically we have a temperate rainforest.
Yeah. Well, that's where those fellers moved through when they came down here from Virginia and North Carolina to try to start the state of Franklin, where they started the Watauga Association. Yeah, you were going to Sean. You've lived in New York, California, New York, California, Arizona, Washington. You've gone back and forth across the country a couple times. That's kind of crazy.
You live in there, Sean? Because Arizona is a very because we was mentioning the desert in Las Vegas, like Arizona's right over here, and it's all desert too. But if you go out like towards like Antelope Canyon and stuff, where the elevation is like 7,000 feet, it snows a shit ton there. But where it's a desert, all the way when it melts, it just goes down all that red rock and goes straight into the river into the next state because the ground just won't absorb it. But it snows a lot in the mountains up in that area.
Yeah, you get a lot of variation down there in the Southwest. Sean says it rains way more in coastal Washington. Yeah, Spill's not used to humidity at all, so when she goes to Texas, she almost dies. Yeah, Texas can be a pretty humid spot too. Well, let's lots of snow where you were from in Arizona, okay? Or where were you? Were in? Okay. He's talking about Tonto National Forest, Arizona. Lots of snow there. Well, I was honestly trying to put this show together today, and I didn't want to do a whole lot of research. I just thought we could get together and talk about some stuff we already knew. So I thought we'd talk about zombies because everybody knows something about zombies. At least our kind of folks. We've been into zombie movies for a long time before they were really popular. You know, we're zombie hipsters, I guess. Yeah. But zombies kind of took on. It just exploded with The Walking Dead when that show came on, and it kind of became. It's almost like the antithesis of well, I don't know. The message that one of the metaphors of zombies were the unthinking, uncaring consumer public who, just eats one another and eats off everything.
Straight up the whole film, Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. And yeah, that was with the mall and all that stuff, and it kind of represented consumerism, people basically eating themselves to survive, not just to survive, but just eating themselves. And then that movie, the zombie movies at that time were kind of, what would you call them? I mean, you call them cult classics, but I guess sleeper hits, because they were popular enough to have new ones made, but they were never popular enough for like wide acclaim or to make anybody really, really rich. But there was just enough to string everybody along, all us zombie movie fans, and then you get to the early 2000s, and I guess when that Dawn of the Dead, that's what B said when I mentioned to her, when Dawn of the Dead, the remake.
The remake, yeah.
Yeah, that's what really brought it back for a new generation, and then it's been nothing but zombie movies since then.
And also, I mean, they're not zombies, but 28 Days Later did a lot for it as well. In that same...
I don't know, I really liked that movie. It seemed like it was a lot less popular, but...
I loved both of them.
I thought it was a good take on it. It's not a movie I'd watch over and over again, just because I couldn't be on edge from, not just trying to listen to a very violent metal all the time.
I love the theme, though. The theme is really good. It's repetitious and it's throughout the show. Like every time they start moving from one place to another and the zombies start chasing them, the theme kicks in again.
I think just probably my favorite thing about that movie was probably that it shifted the typical reason that you're afraid of zombies. Typically, it's a big horde of slow-moving things that you just can't get away from. So it's more about the inevitability that they're eventually going to get you,
Yeah.
Whereas in 28 Days Later, it's the most ravenous-looking hobo people with blood like shooting out of their eyes. It's like the later stages of Resident Evil, and I thought that was actually scarier because they were like charging you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to pull this up here. Spiel mentioned they had... on the CDC, they had a zombie plan, and the CDC, of course, was like, "Oh, this is just what you." And it really is. Your zombie prep plan is really just a prep plan. I mean, and it's not on here anymore. They've taken it down, I guess. The campaign is now retired, says CDC. Maybe somebody has a shot of it, but yeah, they've taken it off there.
And there's always the old faithful Max. What's the author? Is it
Max Brooks?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Mel Brooks' son.
Okay. Zombie Survival Guide.
Yeah. And here's, let's see. Yeah, here we go. We got it in here on stackscdc.gov. CDC's Zombie Apocalypse from 2012 here. And you go into it and basically tells you how to have, stuff in your house that you might need, bandages, first aid, extra food. Here it is. What are you prepared for? Zombies. And then It was a blog, basically on Preparedness 101.
It's basically the same preparedness for a hurricane.
Yeah, yeah.
Get people prepared for zombies. It's like a tongue-in-cheek marketing campaign to get people prepared for an emergency period. But even in 2000, maybe in 2012, the government wasn't in the know about how willing to run with everything the internet really is.
They're like, oh, look, it's proof.
Just think the government should know, especially after like Area 51 and JFK conspiracies, that they have a long history of the public taking everything that they do, whether it's conspiracy or not, and running with it. You'd think maybe the CDC would know not to have a fake thing about zombies when everything we're doing in 2012 was conspiracies were well on their way.
Yeah, that was the Mayan calendar times. Everybody was starting to get into conspiracies, just like everybody started getting into zombies about 10 years before that. Everybody was starting to get into conspiracies, and you're poking that bear with CDC. Spiel says first Flocka turns into Flocka drug turns into one. Now it's a fungus. What's scarier would be the old school voodoo zombie stuff. Yeah, that's actually what got
zombie.
Serpent and Rainbow. You ever seen that?
That's actually what got me thinking about it. Was the
blowfish poison?
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, there's a movie called The Serpent and the Rainbow, but it's a journalist that went down to Haiti. I'm wanting to say. I don't remember, and there's some kind of a zombification that they would do to like their, I think it's like their enemies, where it essentially the medicine poison that they give them puts them in a state where the embalmers and stuff can't even tell that they're alive.
Yeah.
They think that they're dead, and of course in Haiti they don't really embalm; they just bury or dispose of the body, and the person would essentially wake back up from this poisoned state a couple of days later with pretty severe brain damage, and so they just essentially become homeless people within the camp, and people know what's happened to them.
Tell them what to do, and they had to do it, or
no, they're more like just lobotomized homeless idiots. That it's like everybody in the camp knows what has happened to this person. That a voodoo person's gotten a hold of them. So most people either take sympathy on them or kind of acknowledge that they deserved it. So it's because then this was back in the late '60s or '70s when this thing was written about. But the movie is pretty good. I don't know if that'll hold up, but it's decent.
In White Zombie, it was like basically using voodoo to make them a mind-controlled slave, more or less.
Yeah.
And so they were real susceptible to the power of suggestion. And I think they basically had to do whatever the voodoo witch doctor said. Spill, this is from Brazil. I'm not sure exactly what this person's on that's making them act like this.
Brazil's probably gravel or Flocka.
Yeah, that's what it could be. They got, where was it? Was it Russia? The
crocodile.
There's another one called Paco in southern Mexico. It's the reason there's a lot of these drugs, I know people see crocodile and they think it's it's literally rotting their flesh, but that's actually from there's a chemical process they make it with phosphorus and stuff, and these people are gross and they share the needles, and because it's already such a harsh drug and they're sharing needles, they get gross skin infections that start making it do it. Meth heads will get it too, but we have government programs that give needles away.
It's happening.
It's not as bad over here.
There's one we're going to talk about here in a little bit that people call it trank. That's become popular in Philadelphia, where it's rotting people's flesh off for the same reason as that.
Yeah.
Infections
the Paco is essentially when they make cocaine and all these other drugs, they use turpentine and kerosene and stuff as a solvent. Chemistry 101, something to break the crap apart so they can separate the active ingredient from dead weight, And in the process of doing this, they keep using the same kerosene and, all these different chemical agents. So when they're done making the good cocaine that they're going to sell, they take all that kerosene and turpentine stuff and just start running it through filters. And they run it through filters till they get all the chemicals that are left from that in there, and then they roll cigarettes in it and they sell them for almost nothing on the street. And apparently, he's super, super poor kids buy them for a nickel and just get zonked on them. Whew. So who knows what in the world Paco does to you?
Well, you're just talking about your chemistry 101. I saw a tweet the other day. It was an old one, but it said it had this guy said, he said Twitter used to be pretty wild compared to now. He's like, from 2007 to 2012, I was on here showing people how to make crack in the microwave. Now you can't even tell a fat bitch she's fat. You get kicked off. But here, this This video here is from Brazil. It's pretty recent. It's got a lot of people talking about zombie stuff, and I don't know what they're on again. But and here, watch this and tell me if it doesn't look like a Hollywood movie.
We're gonna call it Brazil meth.
This person just crammed himself into this truck, and they're like, "What in the hell do we do?"
It's a good movie. They just need to drop him on the police station.
Kind of unsettling, ain't it?
That's a good PSA for not doing drugs.
For real.
I don't know. He might be on some very PCP or something if he's seeing stuff.
Yeah, he's definitely lost total control of everything. He's hanging on for dear life.
The street, well, I guess like synthetic PCP, with what we was talking about earlier with the bath salts. So to take bath salts is synthetic PCP.
Yeah. And it could be something like that. You know, we were talking earlier, the guy that everybody saw that ate the guy's face off on the bridge down in Florida, and everybody said, oh, he was on bath salts and stuff. No, it was not on anything, right?
He had trace amounts of marijuana. They think he just had a mental episode and didn't come back. That's terrifying to think that Yeah, I think that's what scares people the most, though. Like, they want a drug or something, like a mind-controlling substance. Like, it really freaks people out to think that a human being completely clean of substances could just go zombie and attack them on the street. You know?
Eat a man's face.
Start biting cheekies.
This is from Times of India, the Economic Times English edition here.
I've not heard of this.
What's the new zombie drug, xylazine? Here are some symptoms of the drug which have created havoc in the U.S. Apparently, it is an animal tranquilizer, but they are cutting it. They're cutting stuff like fentanyl and heroin with it, and it makes
fentanyl?
Yeah, apparently fentanyl's not strong enough for some people, or the people are not making a big enough profit. They can't stretch it far enough, so they have to add this xylazine to it.
Cut your moonshine with some Everclear.
Yeah, pretty much. And apparently it's real bad because it's not opioid. So when they Narcan these people who OD on it, it doesn't help them. And it's
kind of like HBC or something, or HB, I can't remember. There's
GHB?
GHB might be what it is. It's like they call it like liquid hair. What is it?
Liquid ecstasy.
Liquid ecstasy.
Call that stuff.
Yeah. And I'd heard back in the day that there was a bad problem with what they called contaminated jugs, because people would store it in like milk jugs and stuff. But the actual making process, when they would pour it in, they would get sloppy, and some of the stuff would come back in, and so you wouldn't have GB, or whatever you just said. You would actually just have liquid everything that it was made of in a jug, and people would just take way too much.
Oh, the jug would leach into it?
Well, no, like you'd store it in a jug, and in the process of making it, which I don't know.
Yeah.
They'd have other drugs around them, and since it's a liquid, even if you got just a little bit of, like, say, crushed up Lortabs over here, even if just a little bit that got in there, it goes throughout the entire drug. So they had this case at one point out on the West Coast where people were overdosing on this particular form of whatever that was you said. And it's because whoever had done it had been mixing too much. Like, he'd been getting other stuff in his drugs, trying to be a partier, and was giving people too much, and people were testing positive, not for that GHB stuff. They were testing positive for, like, meth and heroin and everything else, because he was selling more than just that liquid stuff. Because it's, you don't even know what I'm talking about, so obviously it's not that popular. Right.
I only know from DARE, from Drug Abuse Resistance Education. That's the only time I've heard of it.
Told us what all the drugs were.
Oh, this one makes you feel really good, and this is where you get it, but don't do that because it's bad. And then Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, he talks about GHB.
Does he?
Yeah, he talks about GHB and adrenochrome in there.
No, I've never had either one.
Me either. Well, this is in 2020. In 2021, Philadelphia reported that 90% of lab-tested dope samples contained xylazine, which raises the risk of overdose when combined with other illegal substances, and it supposedly prolongs the high of stuff like fentanyl. But evidently, it causes excessive sleepiness, respiratory depression, and raw wounds, which become severe and spread quickly. And if they're not treated, they turn into dead skin called the eschar, which necessitates amputation. So I think that's one of the reasons that they're calling it zombie drug, because it's rotting people's skin off. But the other thing is, people get addicted to it, and then they lose the pleasure of getting high even worse than drug addicts normally do. Because eventually, if you're addicted to drugs, it becomes something that you do to survive and feel normal and not to get high anymore. But apparently, this will take away any kind of joy associated with getting high, according to Sam, who's a 28-year-old patient, and told the news media. He said he has had no wounds until 9 months ago, and he now has holes in his hands and feet. And according to New York City Department of Health, 2,600 people died from xylazine overdoses in 2021. So that's way more people than people. You hear about people getting murdered in New York City, but I think there's only, like 300 and some people get murdered a year in New York. So they're almost 3 times or almost 10 times the people that get murdered are died just from xylazine.
They're all undesirables. You think that's why they don't care?
Well, I mean, that's probably has to do with it. I'd say if we had, random high society citizens dropping dead like that, it would probably be a bigger deal for the people in the media and the people in the government. But evidently, they are having trouble with it, and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. So, we go down to who created the first zombie, and this says that Night of the Living Dead by Romero is regarded as the first fictional zombie. Well, that's not true at all. We were just talking about White Zombie and The Serpent and the Rainbow, and that goes way back before that. So
you think they're just talking about the idea that it was the first time
the flesh-eating
maybe
zombie
on screen? You think?
Well, I mean, White Zombie was in the 50s. Okay. But maybe it was the first flesh-eating zombie. I don't know.
Maybe it was the first horde of zombies.
Maybe.
Because like Serpent and the Rainbow and the Haitian voodoo and stuff is like a practice that they punish an individual.
Individual zombies.
Yeah, where it's kind of like I can think of another one. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Well, I know that's a golem, but that still was like, I guess in film was sort of like the first zombie sort of thing, because it was like a doll that'd come to life and kill people.
Hey, make it Josh, what's up? He says that's his cousin in the back of the truck. He says, sign me up. Now, Spiel says, yeah, she's sure the PVC's the jug's leaching. Yeah, I'm sure. And, they're probably not worried about that at that point. And, yeah, no, I don't think any of us want that. Yeah, smoke your homegrown. That's about the best way there, Spiel.
Man,
avoid all that stuff.
I'm pretty pro-drug as a former neuropsych student. And mostly because prohibition doesn't do anything. But I don't think there is any chance I would do the PCP thing. Like, I have no desire to try that one. There's first of all, it's not a hallucinogen, it's a delirium, which means the stuff. You take the shroom or something. Oh, look at that dragon. Versus the PCP, it's like, oh shit, the dragon can touch me. Like it's a delirium. You can feel stuff off of it. And which is why the guys in the back of the truck probably trying to swim out of the quicksand that he was stuck in. Yeah. And he was already dead in his vision. He's like, I don't think I'd do the PCP one. Hamilton Morris there's a show called Pharmacopoeia, and he tries to show like a balanced version of all these drugs and stuff. And he goes and finds this artist out in the middle of the desert that lives in a flying saucer on a stick. And this guy like makes art while on PCP, and Hamilton was like, see, he's okay, And the whole time the guy was like, I'm ready to die. It's really sad, but Hamilton's like, yeah, he's been doing his whole life and he's good.
Is that professor that Rogan talks about that does heroin and everybody should do drugs?
This guy's been dead. I'd probably have to fish through my brain to figure out who you're talking about there. Hamilton Morris is he's Errol Morris, who's a documentary maker. But he has like a degree in pharmacopoeia, which is like the chemistry and stuff behind these drugs.
Right.
So he has the whole thing where he goes and does them and then breaks down why they work the way they do and stuff. My whole point is, in the same episode that he showed me, the artist that made flying saucer stuff on PCP in the desert, who was also ready to die, he shows me a rapper who lived in fill in the blank big city where famous rappers live, who also owns a barber shop, but stopped taking PCP because on his last PCP trip, he realized that his dick controlled him, and so he cut it off and set himself free. Because, that's PCP logic right there. He wasn't wrong. That dick really did control him, but good Lord, at what point
What a way to deal with it.
Fuck you! You ain't gonna tell me what to do! But that's exactly what he did. So, yeah, PCP sounds rough.
Yeah, no thanks. I'll pass. I said you like to get wet. I didn't know you like to get wet. But that mentioned Night of the Living Dead from '68 being the first, and of course we know that wasn't. But what's up, Funny Pie? We know that wasn't the first, but that's the first that a lot of people got introduced to it.
That was the most popularization. That first, I guess, more you would say mainstream touch of the creature of the zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Let's check out the box office.
Beyond Witchcraft is one of the things that helped it because
it
couldn't spread. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that was caused by that meteor. How the whole
I remember that. Okay.
In Out of the Living Dead, it was I forgot. It's been
some comet flying over the Earth or
comet
something.
Flying over, and it's like the radiation from it reanimates the dead.
Yeah.
And even if you die without being, contracting it or being bitten or something, just dying, you come back. Yeah, throughout the whole Romero's universe, just death causes it. You reanimate. So.
Its theatrical gross was $236,000.
I wonder which one introduced the idea of a virus, because this is radioactive meteor. And then we go on to virus at some point, and then 28 days. Oh no! And then recently
I was like no, because Return of the Living Dead, which is the other guy that helped him make Night of the Living Dead, because that was like toxic.
That's the gas,
Yeah.
Trioxin 245, the bioweapon there.
Never mind. Is that the one? I remember there was one. I'm pretty sure it's the one you just now mentioned. It had like half a woman zombie laying on a stretcher, and it talked. And I always thought that was weird. It was like
that's in Return.
Said they have to eat brains because it's the only time the pain quits or something.
Yeah, that's the first Return of the Living Dead, and then the second one's very similar. It's almost the same movie, just in a different setting. It actually has the same characters. The two
spines going.
At least four of the same characters. It has the two guys that get turned into zombies first in Return of the Living Dead. And I don't know. I always liked those. A lot of people thought they were cheesy, but
it's part of it.
Yeah, it's like they did that on purpose.
Like those later ones that they actually had the zombies in the barrels.
Yeah,
they couldn't get rid of them, so they actually crushed them into the barrels.
Yeah, and that reminded me of when they had this train thing.
God, that makes me think of Phantasm. People in barrels.
You remember in Return of the Living Dead, they released the gas. Well, they release that barrel, right? They crack the barrel and it starts turning like one of the corpses in there, and like the animals that are in the medical supply place bring them back to life. So they chop them all up, and they notice they don't die, so they take them over to the crematorium and burn them. And as soon as they burn them, the rain makes the gas fall down into the cemetery and revives all the corpses around there. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't help but think of that when we saw the East Palestine train derailment, because that was pretty much what they did. They burned all this toxic vinyl chloride and created phosgene gas and hydrochloric acid, which then rained back down on everything. Like, man, I hope there was no trioxin in that.
We have just a loophole here if anybody wants to investigate this for themselves. Because the conspiracy at first was, oh no, they're trying to 3 Mile Island, Ohio, right? And then lately, a new theory has emerged that they've been doing it for a long time. They've just not been telling people, and this is mean. But if you ever want to look up evidence of this, because I know this is awful, but look up Cyrax, Chance Wilkins. He lives really close there, and he's an internet lolcow. And there's something in the water. That poor fella has got some pretty rough deformities. I don't know what causes that.
And he
lives right up the road from there. He's right up the road from there, and he's one of the first times he ever got something right, because people usually just make fun of him and laugh at him. But one of the first times he got it was right was, guys, I don't think you realize how bad this is. This shit's going to give all of us cancer. And everybody was like, and he's like, no, he's right about that one. Mm-hmm. He's right up the road from it. But now some people are, because he's a pretty popular locale, people are looking at that and they're going, maybe they were already doing something chemically wrong there to begin with, because this guy has got some pretty bad genetic stuff going on.
Yeah. Yeah, we did talk a little bit about White Zombie there, Sean, because we were talking about how that was based on the voodoo lore that goes back a long time before the movie.
Still, the first film adaptation
Yeah, I think
of
so.
a zombie in some form or fashion.
I don't think they're undead in that, though, right?
No,
No,
they're
which
voodoo.
one?
They're
In White Zombie, where they voodoo
Okay.
them, they just basically mind control them and voodoo them. Big bad voodoo daddy.
Ooh, you've got me different versions of zombies now. Even SpongeBob movie has zombies in it with the buckets on their heads.
I've never seen the SpongeBob movie.
Oh, okay. Well, it's really in touch with the Illuminati.
trying to think of what
The virus.
one would be that of a viral.
I'm trying to think, because we got
First example of virus.
Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Would have been in the late 90s, but
T-virus,
I feel like there had to be one before that.
96.
You think there was a virus before that?
I feel like there had to be. Was it? I was just looking it up there, and Night of the Living Dead's its budget was $114,000, and it made just over twice that in the gross box office. So it's a miracle we were ever actually able to find that film and watch it, considering how little money was put into it, how little money it made, and just the weird people. Because I saw it when I was a kid, like, I don't know, in the 80s or early 90s.
Everybody had an uncle that had a VHS tape with a zombie.
Yeah.
You would watch it with no matter what it was. Oh, it's part 4. Watch it. Doesn't matter. You don't need the first 3.
I'm looking up the first zombie virus. Now, they made a whole slew of other Romero zombie films. There was Dawn of the
Looks like you found
Dead,
something real.
Land of the Dead.
But all the Romero, everything in that universe was still based upon that universe, it being the comets, radiation.
Yeah. And it all was well, let's see, is because in the first one, they actually eradicated the zombie outbreak. That's one of the only zombie movies I can think of where they actually do. I guess 28 days later they do, or 28 weeks later they
Sort of.
pretty much eradicate it. But most of it takes over the world and destroys everything.
I mean, 28 days/weeks, that's viral because it's basically the rage virus. It's like a weird mutation on rabies. But, that's Resident Evil is still older than that, it being a virus.
Yeah, I'm looking at first zombie movie with virus. Hell of the Living Dead. I've seen that one, and that says, no, it's a dangerous chemical turning the technician.
Wow. Maybe Resident Evil did do it.
Looks like Brain Dead, 1992, this says.
Why did I not? I love that movie.
Yeah, so maybe Brain Dead,
Brain
1992.
Dead everywhere else, but if you saw it in the U.S., it was Dead Alive. It was done by Peter Jackson, who brought us the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh, what about that one he did? Shoot, I can't think of it now. I'll look it up here in just a second.
When did Resident Evil 1 come?
Bad Taste with Peter Jackson. It wasn't quite zombies. Did you ever see that one?
No, I have not.
Dude, you need to watch that one.
Yeah, but Dead Alive / Brain Dead is 92, so... that-
Bitten by a Sumatran rat monkey.
I remember that cover. I
I do
didn't see
too.
this, but I saw that in the VHS.
Well, I'm going to have to watch that because I've seen that too, and I've
love
never
that
watched
movie. I mean,
it.
it brings in a lot of your cliches that have came out, like using a lawnmower. How you've seen, they use like a push mower and stuff and saw into... And it brings in the stuff with... Yeah, it brings in a lot of...
When did the first Resident Evil game come out?
96.
96? So 4 years later.
So it kind of seems like that a virus would be what we would expect would cause that. But see, this Bad Taste here is from 1987. That's also made by Peter Jackson. If you love,
Had a lot
it's
of
Aliens,
really
I think.
cool,
Yeah.
ultra gory films in his earlier days.
Yeah, this was one of them. The population of a small town disappeared and is replaced by aliens that chase human flesh for their intergalactic fast food chain. So it's got zombie-ish stuff, except they're actually aliens inhabiting the bodies of the townspeople, and then acting like zombies, and they are scooping the brains out, just kind of like the Return of the Living Dead. But
So I guess Dead Alive was the first viral zombie outbreak.
yeah, I can't believe I've never seen that, because I remember seeing that tape in the video store when I was a kid.
It was like a little weird creature that caused it. It had a virus, and that's
Okay.
what ended up starting it. And yeah,
So we've got
in that small town.
radiation, from a meteor or whatever. We've got toxic bioweapon. We've got virus. And I know we're going to move on to fungus here in a little bit. Is there another one that we've not thought of? I know
There's
we've
alien.
is it like just alien chemicals or? Because I'm thinking
It's an alien. There's one. I can never remember the name of it. It's an alien parasite that was in a comet whenever it struck.
Is it Dreamcatcher?
It's not
Go up
Dreamcatcher.
their
But
ass.
that is kind of like zombies, aren't they?
That's similar,
Yeah.
Oh, and there's another one. It's not Divergent. There's another movie. It's where they go in the backs of people, like these little white thingies, and they go up the backs of people's brain. They
yeah, I know
literally
what you're
taking
talking
over
about.
all of human society
Yeah.
except for a small little group, and I can't think of the name of it.
I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
Well, it's not
But
in theaters, is it okay?
this movie is like a really. It's kind of like it's definitely on the B movie side, but it was also record rec. The Spanish version is a lot better, but the English version is like an 80% the same movie. It's another one where it's rabies causes the zombie outbreak.
I've never seen fat ass zombies.
That one I've not seen.
I'll share that with you there. Make America hungry again.
that guy's got
says-
the big pole in the middle too. Makes me go right up
Okay,
your
that one
stinker.
I've not seen. So.
I haven't either. There's so many though, but that's like we were saying. They kind of lost the plot, I guess, because the whole point of zombies started off to be, metaphorical for humankind over consuming, and then they just overwhelmed us with zombie movies to the point where you can't help but build a whole culture of over consuming zombies. Pontypool was a cool one. That one was a different one. We were talking about different causes for it. In Pontypool, well, I don't know if I should tell you or not, because have you seen it?
It's 2000. Oh, am I going to watch?
If you haven't seen Pontypool,
Spoiler
plug
alert.
your ears for the
Skip
next
ahead
10
5
seconds.
minutes.
But in Pontypool, there's
minutes.
a zombie type virus that's actually transmitted via words and phrases. Certain words and phrases trigger this behavior in people. So they're never really clear about what causes this to start, but certain words start getting repeated and people start hearing them and they say them, and then somehow or another the word takes over their psyche and they start being
Invasion
murderous.
of the Body Snatchers. Sorry.
Okay,
Aliens. Yeah.
That one with the alien one, the fun thing is, I don't know, because I can't think of the name of it. It'll take me like an hour to figure it out again. But it's funny that the one of the causes that the people that were survivors of when it happened, they were drunk. The aliens can't withstand alcohol, so that would if you got early in the infection, alcohol would actually kill the zombie.
Guns, Gore, and Cannoli for the Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, is the opposite. It's set in Prohibition in this little area where the mafia is at war with each other and they get a bad batch of booze. And the only reason the mafia doesn't drive is that he doesn't die. They've been drinking the imported stuff, but the rest of the town's poison zombies. No, that's not really. The more we talk about zombies, the more I realize how many zombie things I didn't remember.
There is one called hold on, I can't think of stuff like that.
I forgot about I Am Legend.
Yeah,
I Am Legend
that's a
vampires.
virus. I guess it is technically.
Well,
yeah.
if you actually go with the novel, it's
Yeah.
vampire. It's straight up vampire.
Okay, we're going with movies then.
Yeah.
Well, what about the original, the Omega Man? I guess they technically they were
Man is
vampires.
based off of.
They were straight vampires in that.
Yeah,
but,
that movie was, but also straight off the book, they're vampires.
But the vampires were a lot more zombie-like in some of these movies, like 28 Days of Night, for example. They're out drinking blood, or 30
They're
Days of
pretty
Night.
vicious though. They have very clear thoughts. I'd say they're more monsters.
Yeah, that's
well,
true. Yeah.
in 30 Days of Night, they're drones that they had, the ones they called bug eaters.
Yeah.
Because I was big into that. I was big into the graphic novels. The bug eaters were the ones that they basically used. They drained them enough to where they're basically like, they're zombies, yes, they're slaves, and they would go and they would scope out areas for the vampires to roll into.
There was a bug eater concept in one of the original. I'm wanting to say it was Renfield in one of the. I'm wanting to say it was in one of the renditions of that because he would eat bugs, and they hinted around that the idea that one of the reasons he was so loyal to Dracula kind of kept him properly drained, I guess, I don't know, I guess the bugging thing, I guess kind of try to make up for all the lack of blood.
What's up, Toxic Kilb? We got these shirts going on, these stickers going on from Toxic Kill. I'm going to put one of these on my car. So go check out Toxic Teas and Vodka Moon there for Wilbur the Kill. And let's see, missed some chats here. Let me catch up right here. Hey, yeah, you're making too much noise with that Dremel, Sean. You're not hearing the White Zombie commentary. Honey Pie. She said she should go back and start watching these zombie movies over again to see what our futures hold. I never expected this to become reality. Yeah, and it kind of has had a lot of foreshadowing in a lot of these zombie movies.
Fright Night.
And I was thinking, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay,
The bug eater on Fright Night.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. The guy that helps the dude.
Sounds like
I
hypnosis.
never noticed
Honey
that was a
Pie says.
recurring character. I just remember that one. That's funny. You've seen a lot more movies to tie them all together, though, I can tell.
Well, I got one for you that's also odd, and it's did you ever read the novel or see the book starring Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack, Cell? It's written by Stephen King. It's a short pulp novel, and it's actually really fun.
I don't think I
It has a couple of interesting twists on the standard zombie fare in that, for one, everybody at the beginning of the video, or at the beginning of the movie novel, I think the novel was written in like 2005, 2007, when cell phones started becoming a lot more popular and you started seeing them everywhere. The movie started, or the novel started with everyone who was on the phone. There was a tone came through the phone, turned everybody into a zombie.
Oh,
It
okay.
became quickly murderous.
Yeah.
And the one of the things that was different also from this one is when everybody had turned into zombies and there were survivors trying to group together, the zombies, it turned out, were also grouping together. And the zombies had a hive mind, and they had a leader, and they were all grouping together to try to basically make sure that they were the dominant life form on the planet. And then the survivors, played by Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack, were trying to destroy them.
There is a fun one that kind of plays into some of our mindsets. It's called Contracted. It's a viral, but it's basically done with like a government experiment where they were making like it's kind of another bioweapon.
Okay.
And the whole time, I mean, I guess this might be a spoiler. You go out like this.
Spoiler.
Yeah. There's two parts. The second part continues directly after the first one ends. So it's a cool little like low budget film.
What's it called again?
Contracted. But a girl, like dude that does it, gets out of that. He rapes this girl, and it gives her the virus, and she starts rotting.
Sexually transmitted zombies.
So yeah, it basically starts out like that, and she kind of spreads it to a couple other people who, in the second film, you learn more about that. And the whole time I was just like, what's this going? And then the last like 30 seconds, it hits, and you're like, this is a damn zombie movie. I was like, it totally flew over my head until like the climax at the end. I was like,
Instead
okay,
of the bite, except for the biting, it's the penetration.
yeah.
Okay.
Warm Bodies. Have you seen that one?
That's a spoof, isn't it?
It's more of like a chick flick zombie version of it where it's lighthearted. But the idea on this one is they can get better.
There is one that involves aliens, that the aliens come and I don't remember what caused the zombie outbreak, but the people that weren't killed, aliens basically could cure the zombie virus.
And that goes back to the original Night of the Living Dead and all of them after that, really, for the most part, up until probably, the early 2000s. In all those, once you were a zombie, you were dead. You were done. There was no bringing you back. And
Hugs and listening to vinyl records is what brought people back.
Is it? Well, in all the other ones, you had to kill the person, and you had to shoot him in the head, or separate the head from the body, or destroy the brain. Yeah, and except for Return of the Living Dead was different from that in that you just had to destroy them, and each part of them would still be alive because the toxin actually animated the body. Mm-hmm. And there's a good video on YouTube breaking down how it's from I forget what you'd call it. He's some kind of doctor breaking down how something like that could actually potentially work if there were such a compound. Spill says you used to only see it on television. Now you walk outside and there's zombies. Yeah, and even back in the '60s when Romero made the first one, he was already seeing the zombie problem started. But like I said, with him, it was like, the way people would flock to certain movies, certain music, whatever they're told. They're and go to it or whatever. But now it's kind of like that with zombies. With The Walking Dead, you really saw that because people who never were into zombie stuff started watching The Walking Dead. And they really ruined a great IP, in my opinion, because I couldn't hardly watch it after, like, the first season. I was into it. Second season, it's okay. And probably about the third or fourth season, it was really losing me. But you saw these, diehard Walking Dead fans who were never really zombie fans or kind of anything macabre or horror, but they were
fans.
But they were watching the Walking Dead, waiting on the next episode. Where meanwhile, like most of the original people who the show was made for weren't watching it anymore. And
all things, though, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
Music scenes, once they go mainstream, people kill it, and then the people that originally liked that style, they never went there to begin with. They just kept liking the independents.
Yeah.
It really does happen with everything.
But I will say they got me with Zombieland. I liked that movie. It was fun.
Both of them
Yeah.
are pretty good.
Yeah, I forgot the second
I
one.
thought the second one was okay. It was acceptable,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah.
it's acceptable. I mean, it's
It's fair.
Zombieland,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like I'm sitting there like, I didn't like that. I'm taking a note, but I don't know. I think all movies have a tendency, especially comedic movies like that, like if they do too many callbacks to the first one, it ruins it. But if they do none, it's weird. And that one was in a weird spot.
Spill says she tried watching Walking Dead, couldn't get into it, and she said Game of
either.
Thrones either. Well, Game of Thrones has those White Walkers, which are kind of like zombies too. I mean, they're a little different, but they're like I guess they are undead. They're not really trying to eat people, but they do change them into
My
walkers.
brain is not wanting to totally work, but segueing like the T virus for Resident Evil from the Regenerator virus, they're actually not dead. They're not like
In T-Virus, or
Yeah, they're
virus.
infected.
They're infected, but they're not dead, which is why a lot of like your normal zombie tropes, like on defeating them, sometimes doesn't work. Oh, Reanimator.
Yeah, you made me think of that. I don't know if it's technically, it's kind of a combination between
Well, he makes the virus. Well, the way he creates the or
That's-
finds the way. Yeah, I forgot it. Dang.
Dr. Hans Gruber redirects here, not to be confused with that Hans Gruber, but it's it's kind of a combination of your voodoo zombie and your viral zombie, undead zombie, and what was that other one? The brain that wouldn't die. Remember that one? Mm-hmm. Even though it's just a brain, it's kind of it's almost like it's a zombie too. Yeah, Reanimator.
do.
Well, it was pretty cheesy, but it would actually come after people. The brain that wouldn't die.
Is it just a brain floating? Looks like there's bouncing brain off of Futurama.
Yeah, kind of.
Bouncing at you.
Didn't it?
Is it like
I think mine
Doctor
didn't it have like this.
Had an
like
eyeball.
Man of War tentacles hanging off the bottom of it?
Let's
Or is
see.
it like is it Dr. Gero or whatever? Dragon Ball Z, the big brain. It's locked in a metal box, and for some reason at the end suddenly gets a big robot body.
Yep.
Have you seen the DBZ abridged episode of that where they actually make that movie way better? They make him a sympathetic character. It's like, for crying out loud, guys, I'm a brain locked in a box. Would you please kill me? And they keep fighting around him and stuff until he gets pissed off and decides to destroy the whole place.
I need to see that one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Well, we've kind of covered a lot of them, but one of the most popular one right now, due to the HBO series, is The Last of Us, and we've talked in a few episodes about some of these other parasites and funguses that work this way. But for a lot of people, The Last of Us is the most feasible because it involves infection with a parasitic fungus.
Because you can see evidence that it's already doing it.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about some of those. One was the horsehair worm, was an insect, or I guess
you can take your pick. You can pull up video after video if you really wanted to see some just disturbing ones. Ultimately, every single one of them is something that uses a host to reproduce. So the horsehair worm would be a good example just because it's the most graphic. It looks like something that would be torturous to exist. It looks like it's just a cricket, or you'll see grasshopper or something like that. They get the eggs up in them, and that right there is probably as long as, coiled up, it's probably 5, 6, 7 inches. I don't know, 8. But they coil that whole worm up and squeeze it inside because it grows inside of a grasshopper. It gets the host of water, and then that worm just explodes out the ass of the cricket like a string
Like
bomb.
a party popper.
Yeah, it's really awful. Like to think that thing was just crammed up inside that poor grasshopper. But at that point, there's probably that grasshopper's probably not even alive anymore. But in some horror movie,
It's a zombie.
it is. It's conscious of what's going on, but it can't control it. That would be the horror movie, because there's a lot of these critters that it makes you really wonder if they're conscious or not.
Now, what was the other one you were telling me about that was a fungus that would take over the butterfly?
That would be the big blue. That's the one that. Oh no, that's not. That's different. The big blue is the one that takes over an ant colony.
Is it with a fungus?
No, it's a parasitic moth.
Which
What it
one's the
does,
one with
it
the
lays
fungus?
a pupa that looks exactly like
yeah,
an ant,
yeah.
and then the ants raise it, and then it eats the ants.
What was
Look
the fungus
up
one?
either horsehair worm is a good one, or you can look up the one that takes. Just type in mind control fungus ant. There's a mind control fungus that goes after ants.
Yeah.
Infects them and essentially makes them crawl to the highest top of like a
Cordyceps.
tree, and then spores at the
Which
top of the head.
I think that's actually the fungus that the Last of Us one is
Is that
based
the one
off
with
of.
mimic? That makes sense.
Ophiocordyceps unilateralis.
Yeah.
Unilateralis. Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. Let's go.
I see
there.
we're
Which
changing
I've
here
not
because-
seen the show. I've heard it's pretty close to the game, but in the games, that's what it.
That makes sense for the most feasible one, because the other ones are like parasites, like worms or a little bug or something, whereas this is a fungus. If you see, you can find a real creepy video of, I think it's like a stink bug, where the whole bug's gone except for like the front
Like
two
the
legs.
husk of it. It's
Yeah,
just,
it's
it's a
just-
hollowed out husk, but yet
It's still walking because the fungus has control over it, and it's only got like 3 legs. So yeah, I think this is the best example of what a zombie invasion would be possible, because you can already see it on a much smaller level. So if that evolved to be able to control humans,
Or what if it was
Pretty complicated,
what if it was a cultural something? What if it was spread culturally through the internet? What if it was spread through political and philosophical movements in order to cause humanity to eat themselves? What if your rich and successful people were engineering it, say, in order to take out the middle class and their up and coming competition by turning essentially the lower class into zombies, so they would fight and eat each other rather than ever.
Is this the bigot virus?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's.
it's just the bigot
It's
virus.
it's just a theory. It's just a theory, but
$5 hot and ready virus.
it's just a theory. But what if it were a social contagion, a mind virus used to turn the lower class on one another or the middle class?
Or that's government in general.
Yeah.
I think that would be like what just fall into CIA hypnosis project Mockingbird. I mean, I'm sure you could develop. I think the idea that develops independent of the government would be scarier if we made a movie about it. Like, of course, the government would be trying to figure out how to control people. I think it would be easier to do through social engineering than
Government
fungus,
does
because
literally mean mind control. That's the root word of the word government. Just govern is the root word, is control, and ment is mind. So if you look up the etymology for that word,
Well, I know ment is mind, but wouldn't some of the rules be?
etymology.
Well, yeah, but wouldn't some of the rules be broken with that though? Like government friend. What would think of another mint? Because I'm sure that
That's just what it means. I mean,
I'll have to look at that. That seems wrong.
let's see. The group steer, gubernal, meaning to steer, and to
I guess
steer the
mint
mind.
is the one that has. I don't see. Where's that at?
Let's see if we can find that.
Because I understand government as far as steering.
To
but I don't
steer.
understand the mind part. I'm trying to think of another word that ends in mint. That way I can
Greek.
give an example.
Root, mint. Well, I mean, think about demented. It's all mental, commentary, dementia.
Yeah, but
mind.
I think my issue with it
from
is
Latin means
it
mind.
has to have a nefarious purpose, and I don't necessarily think it does.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, not necessarily nefarious, but at the same time, that is what it is. It literally means to control the minds of the people, and it could be, by controlling the minds by giving them a safe, political system and organizing them in a way that will help them survive. But at the same time, that's what it ultimately means. It doesn't necessarily mean. I mean, is it mind control to teach your kids morals? I mean, you could argue that it kind of is, but it's necessary.
Yeah. But I'm also on the team where I understand that language is
it's not cut and dry.
funny when you start breaking down literal meanings, especially in English.
Well, that's what the literal roots of those words are. You could probably put them together in different ways and mean different things, but that's what the literal meaning is.
Yeah, I guess I just have issues with, like, I know if anybody's seen any of what I would call the screaming heads on the internet, they like to take things and, like, make it as dark as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ones that, and hell, y'all might believe this, I don't know, usually they're saying you have a cuss-up number on your birth certificate or you're on the stock exchange, and it's the same group of people that think that if you use magic words, you can get out of a parking ticket.
I saw actually those people who were trying to. No, there is some truth to that, and I saw those people who.
Cliff's a soft sit, people.
No, listen, there is some truth to the fact that your social and your birth certificate numbers are listed on some sort of exchange, and apparently it's tied to. I don't know if it's your Social Security or what, but some people got into big trouble by withdrawing money out of that. They were trying to trick the system. Yeah, it was probably
Social Security would be there.
About 5-6 years ago.
They try to claim there's a cuss-up number on your birth certificate that puts you on the stock market.
Well, that's what these people did.
Which would be independent of the Social Security because there actually is money there.
These people did that and got themselves in big trouble because apparently we are. What the government does is when we talked about the Federal Reserve, I think we got into this, but the government borrows money from the Federal Reserve and they use us and our tax paying as collateral on that debt. So they basically have a set value to each of us and, as to borrow against, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you own your house and you borrow money against it, it's worth a certain amount. Well, each of us as individuals, each have a certain value that they use to borrow against. Well, these people use that number to try to cash themselves out, and they've successfully received money, but then they also went to jail because the way they did it was what violated the law. But it was about 5-6 years ago. There was a whole group of people on Twitter were doing it, and they all ended up getting in pretty big trouble over it.
I think it's a bad idea to try to find loopholes in government because, like, you can find hours and hours. Like Daryl Brooks, the dude that ran over all those people. Mm-hmm. He was a soft sit, and he was also like he had a bunch of those beliefs, and I think he was kind of a light that was being kind of shown for the whole world what these guys have been doing for a couple of years. If there's any soft sits out there, I'd actually like to talk to because. I want to talk to a real one. Like it's most of the time, I really don't understand how you can see video after video after video of people having their windshield getting smashed in and yanked out of the car. And you want to try that? Just take the parking ticket. That seems like you're just drawing unnecessary attention to yourself. And like it's gotten to the point now where I'm really having to think the movement is itself kind of mentally impaired because they're trying to use U.S. Constitution arguments in like Australia and the UK, and it's like. It's really bizarre to see soft sits in Australia trying to argue the U.S. Constitution, but that's the level that we're working at with this.
Well, I definitely get where they're coming from in that they say, well, you don't have any authority over me to tell me that I can't do such and such thing. But again, like you said, it's when you're surrounded by a group of police officers who tell you that.
But they literally do if you broke the traffic law and they pulled you over, because at that point when you agreed to get on the interstate, whether you're traveling or driving, whatever verbiage you want to use, you're on government roads. they can pull you over and give you a ticket. You want to go off-roading it and start, taking it through some fields, maybe they can't do anything to you. If you're going to use government roads, you have to abide by the government
Well, here's
rules.
what they say is I never agreed to be taxed to pay for those, but you took my money anyway, and I'm going to go where I want. But
That's a fine,
again,
John Wayne sort of argument, but that's not going to hold up in court.
again, you're not going to get anywhere with that because the fact is they got the guys with guns on the streets. So I could sympathize, but not a wise move.
I think I could show you enough videos where you wouldn't sympathize. Almost all the people that are doing it have records and are
I'm not
as revenge to you.
I don't sympathize with the people. I sympathize with the way of thinking, I guess I should say. Or I empathize with the way of thinking.
That you shouldn't be able to be pulled over.
Yeah, what gives you the right, man? You know, that kind of whole hippie thought. What gives you the right, man?
I don't know. I'm changing a lot with that. I think I'm probably more hippie than most people. Well, than all three of us. But I'm starting to...
You're pretty authoritarian for a hippie.
I'm getting more and more authoritarian because the world's losing its mind. And I don't get paid to fight criminals. And I think if people are getting paid to fight criminals, maybe I want to sit sided with those guys.
We use that
Should
for
do zombies in the style of Berserk.
zombies in the style of Berserk.
Have that
Which, by the way,
ultra
Cliff thinks
detail.
being parking tickets and speeding tickets are authoritarian, by the way.
Yes, I do.
Really?
Yep.
I think it's... I don't know. I think I'd say it. Like, I think that's kind of childish to not be able to be pulled over.
Well, yeah, that's my thinking. Yeah,
You shouldn't be able to be pulled
It
over.
might be kind of childish, yeah. But I think we all have to have enough responsibility for ourselves to not endanger other people. And if you do endanger other people, then other people
Who's
around
going to enforce the... Okay, let's
the
say...
people that you endanger were going to kill you.
So
if
we're
you-
all going to... Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a good mindset, because what happens
Yeah.
if the people... Okay, let's say that you got 90 safe drivers, and you got 10 assholes that are running amok. And then one day the 90 drivers who decide they're going to keep the other 10 in check find out that these 10 people are badasses, and they all die in the process of trying to take out those 10 drivers. I think that's what actually
guess that would
happen
suck.
most of the time.
You think?
So you're like a bunch of
Well, who rules?
chads.
Yeah, I mean, who rules the world? The good guys?
Well,
No.
yeah, but I mean, who rules the world now?
The bad guys, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So-
if we take over, like, hypothetically, don't come arrest me, U.S. government. Hypothetically, everything goes to poop, and all of a sudden it goes back to like a balkanized sort of ancient China feudal system where it's all just
the strong
people-
survives.
strongest survive. I think the same thing would happen. I think the bad guy would still get on the top of the pile.
That's not what I was wanting.
The
Even look at that.
the bad guy right now has the air of legitimacy, so he doesn't have to
This
brutalize style of Berserk.
Berserk manga, maybe.
Oh, I get what you're trying to find.
We're trying to have the AI make us some art here,
See if you can
folks.
put it doesn't have the exclamation point on the end of it,
I don't think so.
doesn't it? I'm thinking of Baccano.
Let's see here. Spill, we're missing some honey pie. I wonder if they'll ever spray us with chemtrails containing a fungus like that. That'd be a good way to deploy it, wouldn't it? If you ever want to. There's a lung fungus going around. Funny you should say that. Yep, I've heard that too. And yeah, the cigarette club. That's right, Spill.
I'm already protecting people. If I
Yep.
can kill your lungs, that's not a good hospital environment
Exactly.
for the fungus to live if I kill your
Can't find
lungs.
the cigarette emoji.
So I'm protecting y'all.
It's taking its time on this one. Let's see if
And
we
I
get
think when
anything
the
here.
cops pull you over, you should light up a cigarette, and you should be respectful.
That kind of looks like the ones I made in the Men Behind the Curtain video.
That's not.
Kind of looks like an old school punk.
Yes.
logo, yeah.
See, this AI is not that smart. It can't figure out what Dustin wants. But it's still pretty good art for a computer throwing it together in a few minutes.
Yes. I don't know. I think the
That one
society's starting to
could
lose
be
me.
sort of close, but none of them really.
At least that one has anime hair. Kind of looks a little bit
Yeah.
Hulk at the top, doesn't it, with the purple shorts?
Yeah, just a random arm laying on the ground.
I don't know why gorillas had enough in this Artwork. Yeah, there you go.
It reminds me of that Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood. Yep. I never really never understood why that's what it was called.
Oh. Well, then you definitely wouldn't understand anything from Warped Tour circa 2000 to 2006 because everybody's using goofy ass song titles.
No, I wasn't into Warped Tour. That was more the punk and alt kind of stuff. I was more into like metalcore and neo thrash, I guess, at the time.
I was in the Warped Tour before it got taken over by all that stuff. Which, I mean, like we said, everything gets taken over, put in the mainstream ruin. But let's be honest, it was time for Warped Tour to die. It was just a shadow of what it used to be. Like, well, not to say it was some big anti-establishment thing, but it was pretty cool to go just see people ride vert ramps, and there was, like people giving out free energy drinks because everybody was in the market trying to compete, and you could see almost all the bands on these little tiny labels very, very easily. Even like Blink-182 before they big, even though I never saw them. You could see them at Warped Tour, and then punk really took off with all those bands, and that's when all of a sudden that became, instead of that being the tour you would go to see all these little shitty bands, that became the tour for pop punk, and it just, kind of, I don't know, just gentrified it, which,
Started
happens.
having Yellow Card and Blink-182 and stuff into it, or I guess they were...
Well, yeah, but I mean, those bands were already there. They
Yeah.
just weren't famous. They were just at the beginning of the next wave of mainstream pop punk.
Yeah.
So, which there were still a lot of cool bands that would play that you just catch them on the smaller stages. So,
That's kind of the way it always is. Hey, we got, what's it called? What's that festival we got coming in Tennessee here in just a minute?
Rhythm and Roots.
Muddy Roots?
Rhythm and
Yeah.
Roots is in Bristol.
Muddy Roots.
Is there a Muddy Roots? I don't know about this one.
Muddy Roots is like roots music in Manchester. It's not Manchester, it's in Cookville. Manchester is Bonnaroo.
I'm not familiar with this one.
Let's see, when's it coming up? It's early summer, I believe. You look here. Oh no, September. I was thinking it was early summer. I must be thinking of something else.
Why the hell, like all the big music festivals that are cool are happening in September. Like,
Man, I'm not into festivals. I want to go see a couple of bands. I don't want to stay all day. I don't want to pay hundreds and hundreds
can't
of
do that
dollars.
anymore. I just don't have the energy for
and where there's multiple stages. Just let me go see, I don't know, 2-3 bands. Do a full set.
God, that's the reason I hate. I mean,
normally I do agree, but when
Man.
I did Furnace Fest this past year,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I just don't want to go stand out in the field all day,
you got to
man.
go back behind and like do the stage stuff.
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean,
like,
yes, I had a press pass, but
Furnace Fest would be different because that's like a weekend sort of. I couldn't do it now because my body would break all to pieces and I would die. I agree with you on the 3-band thing, but that's also why I typically don't go see metal acts. Is because they punish you. You go see one band and it's like, oh, there's 5 openers? Shit. I'm not going to work tomorrow. I don't want to sit through 5 bands.
well, most of the ones I go to are usually three bands.
I guess when you get bigger, like, I don't know, I think Kill Switch, every time I see them, I've just had 2 openers. But you go smaller than that, man, they really start just packing the openers on. And it's
I don't
just
know,
too
it's not
much.
been too bad lately, really. I mean, there are a few where, yeah, there's like 5 bands on the whole bill, but it's...
That's rough, though.
That one,
is.
Dustin, that you and I went to, like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago in Knoxville. That's about the most I can handle. And what was it?
Summer
SummerSlam? Summer Slaughter, yeah.
was that?
SummerSlam's a wrestling show. It was
Summer
at the
Slaughter,
International.
they did them in Knoxville at the International.
International?
That's where they did
Pretty
several of
decent
them.
venue.
I mean, yeah, that was
all-
literally all day because it started at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and ended at like 11 o'clock at night. But that way, I mean, the one thing with that is sometimes that brings in bands that you wouldn't normally get to see on a 3-band show. It's able to bring them in.
And
That's not different, though, because that's like an event. Like,
it was one night,
more.
though, and then it was done. I was wore out by the time it was over, but, like, we paid one ticket price. It was not insanely high. And
like- they
there
were
was
like
a lot of bands that I
$30.
loved, too. It was like...
They're like $30 for like 10 bands.
And some of my favorite bands, it was Black Dahlia Murder, Dying Fetus, Rings of Saturn, Origin, Or was it Rings of Saturn?
Rings of Saturn was
Yeah.
there that year.
Yeah, it was Origin. That's who I was
That
thinking
year, Origin.
of. There was
The Faceless was there that
Faceless.
year, even though that was when they started they were waning out on that year.
Oceano.
Oceano,
one of my favorites. So that was a little different because it was a lot of bands that I really like. But usually it's like, you'll go see the main stage is like Limp Bizkit, and then at the same time you've got Black Dahlia Murder playing over here on another stage.
That is the downside to like a festival kind of thing, because you're like, there's two bands I really want to see playing at the exact same time. It's like, which one would I?
Do you remember the international when it was the Electric Ballroom?
Yeah.
I never went to it when it was that, but I remember.
It was kind of what you would. We played there one time. I don't remember which band it was. But we played there, and it was a big place, just like you expect. But imagine decking the whole place out in like black. It looked like you were going to go to like some kind of party that would be featured on like The Matrix. It just looked dun, 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 like just like black cages hanging from the ceiling and chains. And of course, you go up to the cage and there's a sign that says "No cocks in the cage." Because this was, now there's no way in the world you're keeping those little dudes out of the cage. You couldn't do that, so they took them down. It's called the Electric Ballroom.
Bill likes small shows too, and I appreciate a small show, like you said. I like it. It's not necessarily that a small show. I just want to be in and watch the show and get out of there. I don't want to make a weekend of it anymore. When I was younger, sure, but now I want to go see the show. My friend John's always trying to get me to go to shows with him. I'm like, dude, I don't want to go all weekend. I want to go see the show, and then I'm done. I'm ready to go home. Unless I'm on vacation and I've got some other stuff, but I don't want to spend the whole weekend at a festival anymore. Besides, what are you supposed to do if a zombie virus or fungal outbreak happens in the concert? What are you going to do? Nowhere to go. You're in a small place like the Hideaway. You can probably bust your way out the side door of the fire exit.
That's where you'll be eaten by the pre-existing zombies in the alleyway in Johnson City.
But I'm already used to those guys, and I have to deal with those guys.
Trip over their dream catchers and they start stabbing you.
How about some bar change?
The funniest one I ever seen, I'm sorry this is off, but the funniest one I ever saw, there was a dude down there. Because back in the day before they cleaned it up, Johnson City had a really weird little panhandlers market that would show up. Pre-hot dog, dude.
There was like some weird panhandling.
There was some very strange, like turquoise necklace makers, that sort of thing. That was back in the heyday of Guitar Dan, back when he was out there in the alleyway. There was one dude out there. He was selling it. I don't know where he got them. He was selling pans. He was going, I got pans. Look at me handling these pans. I'm a panhandler. Stupid.
Well, I don't know if I should say this or not, but I'm going to go ahead and chance it. But a lot of people didn't know Guitar Dan wasn't homeless. He was actually a property owner, and
Was he really? He's dead now.
he never said he was homeless. He just kind of sat out there and would play guitar.
Yeah, and people just waiting to come on in. Yeah,
a lot of people assumed he was, but yeah, he owned a music studio and had property.
My new rig. I'm gonna start wearing toeless shoes and stuff. God, give him a bigger tip, honey.
Yeah, wear Vietnam era coat, army coat with.
Well, for your age, do like an early Iraqi war.
There you go.
So
God, there's no way in the world I'm getting accused of stolen valor.
No, you don't have to. You just don't.
Your life ruined.
All you gotta do is wear the jacket, and you don't have
You
to.
take my uniform off. They're screaming. It just hurts.
You just take all the patches off, and you're all right. You're not trying to say anything if you take all the patches off.
If I was going to do that, I'd play the. If I was going to really be pathetic and really try to get the tips, I would just show up with like holes in my pants, but leave my underwear exposed and have my underwear the color of like a tea bag to make it look like I'm really flipping those bad boys. Can't avoid laundry detergent.
Well,
or you're just really, really ultra sweaty.
Or I just like brown boxers.
maybe you could be an Undead busker and perform songs for the Undead. They definitely have an audience out there.
That would be a zombie version of a busker. I'm sure somebody would do that in the hype at some point.
Yeah, Spill says she went to Texas Jam to see Pantera and Metallica, but so many people couldn't see the band. They looked like ants. Yeah, I don't want that either. I want to be able to actually see. Spill. Oh, Honey Pie.
I think it depends on the
Yeah, I'm with you there, Honey Pie. There's and I see where you're coming from too, Spill. They're people, they absolutely are. So I'm not saying we're talking about cops. You know, not saying you should, try to pick a fight with the cops or anything. My whole thing is, y'all don't have the right. If I'm not hurting anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I want to agree with you at the same time. I feel we're going to have to do a soft sit episode because I'm all riled up about them because I agree with them on just enough levels to want to slap the taste out of their mouth on all the other ones.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of arguments they want to make where they say we should have the right. And it's like, I still don't agree with that because there are crazy people out there.
Yeah, well, we take care of crazy people on an individual basis. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. No, that's what we would do if we did not have a system that we were relying on to take care of them. But that doesn't work. No, I don't.
Do that though.
No, I don't want to even get into that tonight, Tim.
But if we flip the switch right there, immediately you have to say that we all have to become law enforcement.
No, you don't all have to become law enforcement. There's certain people who will rise to the challenge, just like in public.
Yeah, we have them right now. They're called law enforcement.
Yeah, and they fail at their jobs.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's say we get rid of them and they failed their job. By the way, he's hashtag defund the police. I found out.
Mm-hmm.
Now the next group of people that rise up can do the exact same thing. So I mean, I just don't. There's not a check to that system without just nipping it at the bud.
No, and the whole point of law enforcement is actually to protect the rights of the people who they're arresting. It's actually a lot of people get that wrong. It's a complicated situation, but basically it is to protect people from vigilante justice. That's the whole point of the cops even being there. Is to ensure that your rights are protected
Yeah, I'm
and
not
that you get a free trial.
I'm just pro that if someone steals your car, they should have the right to pull that car over and check it.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, and I'm obviously being tongue in cheek about some of this stuff, but the ultimate purpose of the police is supposed to be to protect the rights of the accused and make sure that we actually put away people who actually commit the crime and not random people because the mob says, "Hey, get him!" and they
current times make me defend
and they get
argument,
and they get like zombies and go after them. So yeah, obviously it's tongue in cheek, and in an ideal society wouldn't need them, but obviously we have to have something to take care of that, some sort of organized system. So, you way out on the lawn there in Texas.
Snap! We found the source of the virus.
Yes, that's right. He's
hiding right here.
That's right.
A wolf in sheep's clothing. And Wilbur's going to bring about the end.
Well, listen, y'all.
T-shirt zombies, you put them on, all of a sudden, I must buy moonshine.
I must buy vodka moon.
Zombies.
Might be onto something to make it.
You put this on your car and then you crash into the East Tennessee Distillery or your local liquor store and pick up some Mellow Moon or Vodka Moon, as it were, and definitely do that because you want to. They make it in the traditional method over there at East Tennessee Distillery. I think they use mostly sugar cane and enough corn to actually make it moonshine. But I think their primary grain that they use is sugar cane, and they actually make it in the traditional method in the big steel. And
I think people get confused about moonshine when they think it always comes from corn, but moonshine is anything that you can get the sugar out of to ferment, including back in the day. I've heard I remember you told me this. I think somebody said they used to make it out of like old stumps and dandelions and stuff like that. So I mean, sugar cane sounds a lot tastier.
Get you some dandy shine.
If you get there,
it would have a lot more vitamins in it if you did it with.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
that'd be interesting. There's dandelion wine. I don't know if anybody's ever made that or not, but
dandelion
I've heard that.
tea is pretty cool.
Bill says they're supposed to be civil servants, but and be on our side, but the tables have flipped. Yeah, unfortunately, the bad guys have got in charge of those guys in a lot of places, and you had. Really, a big thing of it was like prohibition for alcohol, and that put the state in charge of controlling people's lives a lot more than they ever had before. And it's kind of all been trying to get back from there, because then we went into drug prohibition, and all these prohibitions created so many more social problems than they solved. And now there's there's the problem of homelessness, fatherless communities. There's not communities basically. There's kids growing up and getting into gangs and stuff at a young age, and there's organized street crime from the time these kids are, teenagers, and sometimes even earlier. So it's like, how do you can't just stop. You can't just have no police go away.
My big thing is if we don't argue, there's no show. But one of the things too, like we're in Tennessee, and Sean, when you get here, do the speed limit. I don't know, like that's one of my big questions is like, how do you fund the police without this never-ending system of writing citations for traffic violations? Because, like, I know you go other places around the United States, you don't notice it quite as bad at all. Tennessee it's weird how many cops there are writing tickets the first 2 weeks of every month. And I think that's one of the reasons I want to bring it, because I do think they're necessary, but it's like it's borderline abusive the way they ticket the locals in Tennessee. So that's why I'm always kind of bringing up the weird bouncy issue of cops, because it's like, I don't want to go out there having hunt criminals, but at the same time, I sure wish you state troopers would quit pulling people over, because that's an expensive tax. Or traveling tax, you know.
Minor.
And what gives you the right, man?
That aren't really hurting anyone.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. If it's a crime or a endangering somebody, sure. But just because you're technically violating a law, technically violating some code or ordinance, like they look at that as an excuse to extract money from you.
There you go. There was an episode of Andy Griffith where the new person was coming in town. I can't remember who it was, like a state trooper or something, was trying to write tickets for the drivers going up this one particular road. And Andy had to explain to him, hey, look, we know that we understand the law, but the sign's wrong here. The truck drivers need that extra 5 miles an hour to get up this ramp, so we don't write them tickets for that. And the guy just thought that was absurd. But that really is the way I think law should be ran, as weird as that sounds, is there should be squish, because it's not cookie cutter. Not every place is exactly the same.
Well, and Andy gives you another good example of that in one of the episodes where Opie doesn't want to break the rule, and he says, if there's a sign that says no swimming in the pond, but you see a little boy drowning in that pond, don't you think you should jump in and save him? Like, yeah, you've broken the rule. You've broken the law, but the consequences are worse to not do it. So we all have to be a little aware of what the consequences of our actions are when we're choosing what we're going to do. And sometimes you have to break the rules in order to do the right thing. But now you've got everybody. So, the rules have to be followed. Zero tolerance. Zombie mentality. And the drone mentality, hive mind mentality, Borg mentality. Sounds like a bunch of fucking comedy gobbledygook to me.
Halloween 3.
Yes, the Season of the Witch. Yeah. That movie was originally supposed to be, or Halloween was originally supposed to be an anthology of a bunch of different kinds of stories.
Villains, yeah.
But Michael Myers was so popular when they came out with Season of the Witch, everybody's like, where's Michael Myers? Yep. It's like, all right, I'll give you more Michael Myers.
Yeah. I get it, but at the same time, I kind of wish they had been allowed to do that, because you would have had more concepts and they wouldn't have burnt that character out so
Well, I really like the Season of the Witch.
I did too.
The mind control masks that were going to blow everybody
up. And it's way more demented, too.
Yeah.
Because, Michael Myers gets creepy because it's one dude chasing, a handful of people.
They're going to kill everybody. Yeah, all the kids.
Children?
All the kids.
That's dark.
Well, listen, y'all, it's about 11:30, so it's about time for us to hop off here. So I wanted to go over real quick. Where we at? It's story time with Uncle Cliff. The Dumpling Creek Treaty. For those of y'all around Tennessee area, we talked about the state of Franklin before. This was an attempt of settlers from Virginia who traveled past the Appalachian Mountains. They started forming their own government down here with the Watauga Association.
Over there.
I don't know. It's not dumpling, it's dumpling. It's Dumpling Creek. So it's hard telling. They made a lot of. You got your Asian dumplings with sausages, and you got fruit dumplings. So
you got Senator Dumpling, who is going to be the senator of Ohio in about 15 years, because that's the course of names.
All right.
Well, you'd see that Senator Dumpling McFats or something like that.
Dumpling Duck.
Well, these guys who lived over here west of the Appalachian Mountains, they formed the first government here called the Watauga Association, and whenever the Revolutionary, they were real big in the Revolutionary War. We've talked about that and the Over Mountain Men. So if you're interested, look that up. Over Mountain Men and the Battle of Kings Mountain. But they also, when the Revolution was over, there was a lot. This was territory of North Carolina where we are right now. And the people here, part of the big reasons that they had actually joined the revolution was when they came over here to this side of the mountain, they made deals with the Indians that they were going to be able to lease the land from them, and the British government said, no, you're not allowed to do that, and they convinced a lot of the Indians to attack them. Well, the state of Franklin was the attempt of the locals who lived in this area, particularly in Greene County, Jonesboro, that area there, to Kingsport, to form their own state government, because they stated they didn't feel the state of North Carolina was representing them over top, and they really didn't have. There was a couple of courthouses west of the mountains, but there wasn't a lot of authority to appeal to if they needed anything for, horse thievery, things like this. So they didn't want to, if they didn't believe in vigilante justice, like we were talking about earlier. They wanted to have an organized proceeding to make sure that they were legitimate. So they were trying to form the state of Franklin, and they petitioned Benjamin Franklin to try to get him to go to bat for them with the Congress, but they never did actually achieve it. But while they were the state of Franklin, they had made this deal with the Indians before that they were going to lease the land from them. So the Dumpling Creek Treaty was at the beginning of the founding of the state of Franklin. And it says the Franklin officials moved forward with the business of establishing a new state. And they had a commission to treat with the Indians, and they were no longer bound by any of the North Carolina arrangements. So they made a meeting with John Sevier at Major Hugh Henry Station near the mouth of Dumpling Creek in June of 1785. And there was only a portion of the chiefs of the Cherokee who actually went in and met this thing. So met and did this treaty, and they agreed that, they're not going to. I'm going to read you a portion of the treaty here. It is agreed by us, the warriors, chiefs, and representatives of the Cherokee Nation, that all lands lying and being on the south side of Holston and French Broad Rivers, as far south as the ridge that divides the waters of the Little River from the waters of the Tennessee, may be peaceably inhabited and cultivated, resided on, enjoyed, inhabited by our elder brothers, the white people, and from this time forward and always. And we do agree on our part and behalf of our nation, the white people shall never be by us or any other nation molested or interrupted, either in their persons or their property, in no wise in any form whatever, in consequence of their settling or inhabiting the territory, tract, or land, or country aforesaid, any part of the name whatever. And it basically goes on to say that John Sevier is representing the white people, and he says there's going to be reasonable and liberal compensation made to the Cherokee for the lands they've ceded, and they worked out their agreement basically between the representatives of the states of Franklin and the Cherokee. And it was actually the federal government which came along and messed that piece up, as we talked about earlier when we talked in one of the other episodes about the Indian Removal Act. We had, on the local level, made peace with the Cherokee nations that lived here several times before, but it was the larger government, the federal government, that came and broke that. And then they also, it was the British government that broke it the first time, because they convinced the Cherokee to attack the people who were living here. So, point being, basically, when you live next door to somebody, you can usually make a way to deal with them. But then the authorities come in and start trying to call the shots from afar, not the people who live on the ground. That's when we have trouble. And we've kind of had battles between the Indians and the Franklinites for years after this. And John Sevier actually ended up, though, he always said he hated fighting. He never wanted to fight any of them, but he ended up fighting 35-0 in battles with the Indians. John Sevier was, and he ended up being the first governor of Tennessee. And while he was governor of Tennessee, there was, it was all cool with the Indians for the most part.
They had sticks and he had black powder.
Oh no, they had guns, dude. They had. Oh yeah.
35-0 against them.
It's
Chad status.
Yeah, he's John Sevier. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna play the lefty stats and be like, nah, he's just a bully white guy picking on people with sticks.
Oh no.
Pussy. John Sevier was a pussy picking on the brown people.
John Sevier tried like hell not to fight with the Indians. He
enslaved them. He's a piece of shit.
He was fighting the Brits, and the Brits convinced the Indians to attack him. And
relatives were coming after me, some blood feud.
Well, he's got a lot of them, I'm sure, because there's counties and streets. There's a whole county named after Sevier. There's streets after him in pretty much every town in Tennessee.
You got a county named after you? Piece of shit. No way you got that much.
He also saved Bonnie Kate.
Mindset, isn't it? Did
Yeah, he did. He's the one who. If it weren't for John Sevier, we'd never know Bonnie Kate's name because she was getting attacked by the Indians. She got locked out of the fort, and Sevier reached over and pulled her into the fort and saved her.
I know for certain. I really hate him.
But Catherine Sherrill, though, she was supposed to Bonnie Kate, the real life Bonnie Kate. She was supposed to be a badass. She said she could outshoot and outfight any man around here.
Well, she built that theater by herself. I believe me. Every brick. I don't know why she licked the bottom of the brick like it's a stamp, but
that reminds me of this, there's this account I follow on Twitter called 3 Year Letterman, and he likes to talk about how he's a youth football coaching legend, and he'll post things like, for President's Day, he'll be like, Benjamin Franklin was the greatest president this country ever knew. Happy President's Day. We miss you, or something. And of course, he was never president. And he'll always say things like, he tries to troll Congress into responding to him. So, like, when a representative will respond to him, he'll say, you might want to delete this, Senator. You're making yourself look like an idiot, or something like that. But it's pretty fun account. But yeah, that's I don't know why I felt the need to share that, but it was pretty funny to me. But anyway, y'all, I appreciate you joining us. Use that cruise control. That's what we're doing. Keep it on cruise, y'all, till we see you Wednesday. Thank you, Spill. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Honey Pie. So glad to have you with us. Thank you, Vacant Josh and Dalton. And we didn't see the Wild Bluff Screamer tonight, and it actually is the White Bluff Screamer. I looked it up today. It is the White Bluff Screamer. We've been saying wild.
Not anymore.
It's the Wild Bluff Screamer now. That's right, by God.
Wild Bluff Screamer now.
Wow.
All right, y'all. Well, we appreciate you. We will see you Wednesday night. We're going to do news and current events roundup, and there's no shortage of news, so we'll see you then. Love to you, Honey Pie. Y'all take care. Y'all come back now.